Hey everybody, I had to create a separate live here. Let me make a, let me type this in. Yeah, I'm afraid we're gonna have to start from scratch with this. Scott, hey, how you doing, man? All right, everybody's here. Sorry, guys, for some reason, YouTube is crapping out over here in the Netherlands today. Not on my end, not on me, but I did not panic. I created a new place to start up. I'm here. How you guys doing? Good to see everybody here. Let me make now I've got to make adjustments here because I got to find myself now. I have no idea where I'm streaming from right now. Let me go to my channel and let me take a look here. Yeah, all right, there we go. All right. I knew we would figure it out. Oh, they were going to mess up my birthday live. I wanted to be here, guys, with you for my birthday live. Absolutely, guys. It is a pleasure to be here, 58 years young today. And have to say that it has been an interesting ride. I just got my fourth passport renewed in the mail just recently. I burnt, and I mean, I burnt all of them. I had to get extra pages put in, and since 1995 till now, I burned through four passports, 10 years each. I got on those, and that's quite an amazing thing, And to imagine, and those years and in my life, all the places that I've been, that as a child, like I said, I've seen Mount Everest with my own eyes, plus a couple other places too. And I can say that the biggest pleasure I have is still being here and being able to do a live stream with you guys. I always start out by saying I thank you for your time. Your time is something that you work hard for to get. Your free time, and spending a little bit of your free time with me is greatly appreciated. Always will be. Whether you're catching this live or in the rerun, I want to say thank you so much. And thanks, guys, so much for catching up with the new location for tonight's live stream. I'll switch the artwork and title and all that stuff over later. So what we got here? We got let me catch up. Scott, Ben, Michael. We got Next Star. Patrick. How you doing, Patrick? Harry Goat. How you doing? And Mike, hey, happy birthday to me. I got a lot of people here today. Sweet. Thank you all, you guys. Thank you so much for your birthday wishes. So good to be here. Yeah, you know, I usually start out these live streams with a little bit of rambling, waiting for everybody to come in. But since everybody's here, we can get started. Just a Sigma, bro. Looks like Morgan Freeman and the body of Obama. Looks like Morgan Freeman. Okay, so Morgan Freeman, we all know him, Shawshank, right? In the body of Obama. So you're saying that I'd have an old man's head in a slightly older man's body? Anyway. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now I'm not saying I love you to folks I don't know, but thank you for showing up. Bro Riot, how you doing? How you doing? Good to be here with all you guys, as I said. Where to start? So little to say in so much time. No, strike that, reverse that. um, I heard the news that Ann Wilson from Heart got her guitar stolen at a gig, no less. And I believe it was. I'm thinking Memphis, but I may be wrong. But in any case, she lost one guitar, and one of her bandmates lost his mandolin, while these were on stage. They had done their sound check. Steph was sitting up there, and some just random guy walked in off the street. No kidding, walked up on the stage, took this stuff, and literally a few blocks down from the venue was asking people if he could sell them to them, you know. And he got arrested, but apparently somebody did buy them and they've disappeared. It is a purple Telecaster with a paisley headstock, and the mandolin looks to be, to me, to my eye, to be a Gibson. Really nice pieces, both of them. And just putting that out there so it's on you guys' radar. Not to say that you'll bump into it, and certainly I know none of my people bought it. We don't buy hot goods here. At least I don't think we do. But keep an eye out for that. You know, the history of artists having their guitars stolen while on tour is nothing new. I'm thinking to myself that Joe Bonamassa has, like, like karate masters for security. Because every time he goes to take a dump, he's got to have somebody watching his guitar. And honestly speaking, it gives me a heart attack. You know, Jimmy Page's Black Beauty, three pickup Black Beauty, got stolen in Montreal, a flight from Montreal in 1970, and he didn't get it back until about 3 weeks ago. that's not even a major exaggeration, um, sadly enough. And so the history of this kind of stuff, is, it's out there. And I can use that as a segue into tonight's subject, talking about Fender. The title of the live stream that YouTube decided it didn't want was, let's take a look here so that I don't misquote myself. Um, what did I write? Yeah, Fender prices are up 40%, but you've got better options. Now, lately, one of the biggest, hugabaloos, if I pronounce that correctly, in the guitar markets are the price increases. In particular, there's been a lot of price increases going on with Fender. In the last 5 years, I took a look and did a little bit of calculation using ChatGPT. Don't use it all the time, like I said, but sometimes for stuff like that, it's useful. And basically determined that there's been about a 30 or 40% price increase in the last 5 years with Gibsons, meaning that they've roughly averaged about 7.5% increase per year for the last 5 years. And you can honestly, actually a little bit more of that, but you can honestly say that that's significant. That's more, inflation generally is about 6%. So they were increasing above the price of inflation, for the last 5 years. Mike says, Fender price gorge on the Mexi Fenders. I'm out as well, Mike, on any new Fender product. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Run Riot. Hey, Scott. Saying hello, Scott. Yes, everybody say hello, Scott. Thank you guys so much for being here again. It means a lot to me. Shishank says, this is your daily whisper from heaven. Oh, here we go, guys. Drink some water, care for the body God gave you, and rest in peace today. Well, that's a nice one. I cannot disagree with one word of that. I like that. Did you see Sinners? And so do you believe that a guitar is guided by the Spirit? Well, that's a great question, Serendipity. I like metaphysical questions on this channel. I don't shy away from those. I believe that we all have spirits in ourselves. As we know, they're called souls. And each one of our souls has a specific, let's just say, calling to it. Some is a good calling, some is a bad. And I think that through music that you write or playing, let's take myself, for example. I don't write harmful lyrics. I write truthful lyrics. I am truthful. I don't shy away from hiding religion to go away from the truth, because God made us, and there's a lot of aspects of us. Now, I also delve into the negative parts of that, how that could lead you to bad places, and also how that could lead you to good places in some songs. And through all that, I played with that spirit in mind. There have been some songs I've written that were written in some dark places. I have to tell you, that have some esoteric lyrics to it, but I was exploring that at that time, knowing full well what it was. But even in that, being very careful, warning, so to speak, is what I use it for. So, if that helps. Clapton's Burst from the 60s still missing. Yeah, there's another example. Your skin is so beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Gibson, in 58 years, I didn't, no drinking, no smoking, you know, that'll help. Not a lot of sandpaper to the face either. I kind of kept that down. Gibson gets way more hate, but Fender is much more greedy. I believe our souls guide us to create. Exactly, that was the point I'm saying. And sometimes a negative spirit will make you write negative music. That's why I don't listen to most drill or trap or any aspect of rap music these days. The rap music that I listened to when it first came out, like De La Soul, and just that genre. When you listen to those records, they had a beautiful spirit to them. They're light, beautiful, and real. And somehow or another, it just turned into this evil, murderous, God-forsaken thing. So yeah, gotta be really careful. So you don't write truth. So you don't write truth. I believe our sides guide us to create. Yes. So you don't write truth. Yeah, I write truth very much. So listen to my song "The Sower," title track of my first album, solo album. Since when you can get it on you listen to it on YouTube. Since when were you sitting in a wheelchair? I'm not now. I'm Professor X. Now everybody's calling me Professor. I'm either Obama, Morgan Freeman, or Professor X tonight. Great, awesome. Thanks, guys. So we'll use that as a segue to get into tonight's topic about Fender. Now, um, Fender Mexican Standard Strats used to be $599. Now they're $899, and that's a 40% jump in the last 5 years. And American-made models are another story. And as I said, it's been a lot of hugabaloo here on the internets about these especially the YouTube guitar channels, of course, about these price increases. And I myself always would like to take a positive, approach to looking at these things, offer some solutions, not just bitch about it. I don't personally feel betrayed because I know that there is a path that Fender is on, and I've talked about it with you guys before, and I'll reiterate it tonight with you. Um, but let's just go through this. Let's just talk the numbers, just so we can kind of get a feel for what people are not really happy about, and justifiably so. So, a made in Mexico Standard Strat, as I said, used to be $599. Now they're $899. An American Performer USA was $999. Now it's $13.99. And if you're over here in Europe, more than that. The Player Series, which was made in Indonesia, when they debuted those were $599, if you guys remember. And I told you, and I've said it to this day, that they're overpriced by about $200. Well, those have gone up to over here in Europe, 600 equivalent dollar equivalents, about $640 now. Now, going from 599 to 640 is not a huge increase, not as much as we saw on the American Performer, and certainly not in the last 5 years as we've seen over the course of with the Made in Mexico Strats. But we have seen an above. So a couple points here. These increases are the numbers that I just went through with you. And and rightfully pointed out, by the way, that Player Series just came out 2 months ago, and it's already gone up. You know, it's already had a price increase on it within 2 months. You know, so that's, that points towards something. That points towards something. But in any case, you know, y- these figures should be couched with the realization that in the used market, it reflects nothing close to these numbers. A made in Mexico for $899 new? Well, I can tell you for a fact, over here in Europe, you can get them all day long between $300 to $400. I don't deal with made in Mexico strats, tellies, anything. I don't touch them. I got not burned on one, but I didn't do as well on a made in Mexico telly, that candy apple red one that I took in a trade as I thought I was going to do, and yeah, I don't have to get slapped twice to realize that that's just a route that I don't want to go down. And I know that because I thought I was incorrectly pricing it. Um, it's one of those things that, depending upon where you live, they can be more or less. But over here, they're not valued very highly at all. These prices don't line up with used market realities. So, who are these new guitars for? Cui bono? Who benefits? Always ask yourself that question. It's not just for, a script, filler in a movie. It's actually a real thing you should really apply in real life. And cui bono? Who benefits? Not working musicians. Not a smart collector. Like I said, I wouldn't. As a small dealer, I won't touch it. I won't touch it. I won't deal with it. I won't have anything to do with it. And not players on a budget either. You know. And again, if the goal is to say, hey, even though the Squire CV is a way better guitar, I've still got to have that Fender on the headstock. But the standard player series, is more than a custom vibe. But you can get a made in Mexico again, like I said, for 300. There you got your Fender on the headstock, and it's a better guitar than the Indonesian made player standard series. Again, I always talk about I'm good. I'm always a big, purveyor of that, which is the motto of this channel. For those of you who don't know, new here, the motto of this channel is I'm good. And what do I mean by that? I mean, sometimes I look at this stuff, it has a couple of meanings, but in tonight's application, it means I'm good on buying Fenders because I think that their pricing is wildly out of touch with the realities on the market, A, and B, it is quite evident, and I've brought this up before, that their main goal is to become a lifestyle brand. And in order to become a lifestyle brand, you're appealing to a completely different niche of people. You know, remember I said that for every 10 guitars that are sold, this is a true stat. This is, we all know this. For every 10 guitars sold, eventually only one person is going to stick with it. So that's your client. So if you have 100 people, how many clients do you have out of those 100 people? Bueller. So, and that's and then you extend that out, and it's not a lot of people, in the end. And so you have to reach out to those disposable income folks, and so you become a lifestyle brand. So it's a shift in strategy, basically. Let me catch up here. Walnuts of pleasure. I like you, walnuts of pleasure. Welcome, man. I'm glad to see you back. Truth. They call me no bark because they know when I tell has bite because it's the truth. No bark, no nin. Fallout, New Vegas, 2011. Okay. De La Soul with Otis Redding. Okay. American Fender price gouge champs. Yeah, Mike. The world ain't what they said as kids. If Trump's a taco, then Elon's a burrito. Why? Because he's filled with racist. Okay. I don't mind prices too much, but hate the 2 year wait for any guitar, not on a store's wall. I agree with that. The Fender Custom Shop, you know, I was looking into recently, and the waits on that are pretty lengthy, and some of the guys who you would want to have make your guitar apparently have retired now. So even you can't even say, well, this was a Fender custom shop made by such and such, because he's retired. He's in Boca Raton sipping chi-chis and laughing. uh, You say, man, because some of those custom shop guitars, I was talking about the weight of my new Strat, the Greco being 9 pounds 6 ounces, but some of the custom shop guitars can be 9 or 10 pounds. I was surprised. Like, why would somebody pay all that money for a custom shop guitar to get a 9 or 10 pounder? That blew my mind. If anybody, oh, by the way, Scott. Speaking of things, that's what I was trying to remember with my warm up speech. Was I have an answer for you? I have a few answers tonight. You asked me what did the SE stand for on the Greco guitars, and I said I have, or the Greco Strats, and the EG on the Les Pauls, and I had no answer for that, and that bugged me. If you know me, you probably know that I was going to look that up. The SE, I was half right. The SE stands for Studio Electric. Studio Electric. And the EG stands for electric guitar. I said that. That probably stands for electric guitar. So I do have an answer for that. So if you have a SC 550, like the one I have, you've got a Studio Electric 550. I have no idea why they came up with that name, but I have an answer for you. Mike says Fender is a bolt-on neck modular constructed product. The Mexican Fenders are solid guitars, but are now overpriced now by about 20 to 30%. Interesting. Over here in Europe, like I said, they're cheap. You can get them 300 to 400 bucks. This lifestyle brand thing is incredibly unappealing to me, Run Riot says. I'm sure the dentists and lawyers who can afford are okay with it though. Well, I don't know. I don't know about that either. Like we have a shifting monetary system occurring here, and we just don't know who's going to settle on that side. People who were, people who are doing well in some professions. Suppose those professions may not be as you know nice as we thought they were at the other side of this. We'll see. Metaphysics and non-duality is the answer to reality and existence, in my opinion. Okay. Metaphysics, it certainly is an aspect of human life that one should understand, but it's not at all. Twisted Sister, J.J. French made a nice guitar, but he was a horrible guitar player. Yeah, Omar. Hey, Omar, how you doing, brother? Good to have you here with that little bit there. Twisted Sister, J.J. French made a nice guitar, but he's a horrible guitar player. Yeah, there's that, if what do they say? If one can't do, then teach. Hey lad, can you tell me how to pull a black baddie? Never dated a black queen, asking because you look experienced. Well, not since 1995. I haven't. I'm not exaggerating. I can't help you there, man. But you know who you need to ask is uh, I don't know. I don't even know. I'm there trying to think of the U2 guitars, but I don't want to throw any of them under the bus. But you made me laugh, so you get to stay. Would you rather be stranded on an island with an annoying non-duelist like myself, or a moron Mexican Les Paul? We got some great second Buddha. Good one. Good one. I like that. I like you guys tonight. You are brilliant, smart, and cracking me up. The answer to that one, I don't know, man. You seem pretty cool. I'll have to go with you. I don't find you annoying in the chat, so I think I'd have to go with you, man. Then maybe we could figure out how to make guitars out of coconuts or something. Now, this isn't the cost of wood or shipping. This is really about Fender repositioning itself as a luxury brand. It's not about musicians anymore. It's about lifestyle. About lifestyle. Their marketing has changed. They're doing custom colors, limited runs, YouTube collabs, all that kind of stuff. They just put out yesterday. What made me do this video too, because I was like, oh God, everybody's upset about the price increases with Fender. It's all this Fender bashing going on, and do I really want to pile on that bandwagon? I was like, so many other interesting things, Buddha, to talk about, certainly. But I decided, to do it because they put out a video talking about this is Fender behind the scenes. And, we're going to show you how Fenders are made. They put this video, I don't know if you guys have seen it, check it out. Scott, if you can find it for me, Fender is on Fender's official channel. They just put it out 2 days ago. Check this video out. Thank you, Scott, if you do find that. If not, no pressure. It pissed me off when I saw it because it was nothing but an advertorial for their newest models. I shit you not. I thought it was going to be, okay, let's go into the shop and see how things are made. But no, it was none of that. Even when the guy was talking about, innovations, he was merely talking about how to make an SSH or HSS, one of the two, sound good. It blew my, which they already do or don't, there was no innovation there. And it just blew my mind. So I said, you know what? These guys what is this? What are they thinking? So let me check that out, Scott. Let me check it out. Let's see here. That's it. Thank you, Scott. That's it. So you got about 35 minutes worth of bullshit as far as I'm concerned. Excuse my language. Thank you, Scott. You the man. 35 minutes of just PR of their latest models. Just the whole section. Middle section of that is merely talking about these models that I just got finished talking about. So check that video out and see it. That's what got my gander up. It wasn't their price increases because, like I said, I'm good. I'm good on, like Mike said, I'm good earlier in the chat here. I'm good on buying Fender products. I'm good because there's alternatives. We're gonna go through some here in a minute. But just to set the stage, you can see where they're going. Even when in this video, you can see that they're gravitating towards being a lifestyle brand. It was obvious to me when I looked at it, And this pricing strategy leaves out the working class guitarist, but opens the door to it opens the door to a better place to look, which in my opinion is, again, the secondary market, the used market. I'm always trying to shift everybody away from buying the new ones to going to the secondary market for a lot of reasons. You can get a 70s or 80s Greco Tokai. Okay, I talked about giving alternatives. I don't want to just sit here and spend the whole evening bashing on Fender. I'm going to say, if you're interested in saying, like me, I'm good on Fender, let's talk about some other things that you can get. Let me catch up in the chat here. Am I caught up? Yeah, wait a minute. Omar says, I bought a custom-made guitar by Paul Stanley of Kiss for $2,000 in 2000. I'm sorry, now I took to the pawn shop. They said all they could do was $250. With a guitar like that, it's a rarity. How many did he make? Also, again, it really comes, the guitar and market really comes down to what somebody will pay for that. If you can find a Kiss fan that digs that, you may be able to get double your money over that 250. Maybe you'll get 500, but you got to find the right buyer for something like that. Rarity, and nobody's out there, I guess, really looking for a Paul Stanley guitar. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to hear that. It sucks. Like I said, I've bought things that I thought, oh, I saw the worst. I was watching because I completely took my mind out of the guitars for the last few days, and I had to kind of jump started again so that I could come here and do this live stream and talk about these things. As a matter of fact, last night I watched The 7 Year Itch with Tom Sewell and Marilyn Monroe. That was my Friday night movie. I love that movie. That's one of my top five favorite movies, The 7 Year Itch. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. Marilyn Monroe is just looking beautiful in her acting and her comedy. She's just a wonderful actress. Everybody always looks at her beauty, which she was, but she was a great comedic actress. And trying to get my mind out of things, but tonight I was watching an episode of Pawn Stars about guitars on YouTube, and this guy brought in what he thought was a 1960 Les Paul Black Custom, but Black Beauty Custom, a two pickup, not three pickup, and they brought in their guitar guy. I like him. I can't think of what his name. Jesse. They brought in Jesse, their guitar guy, and he took a look at it and he started flipping it around and looking at it. And when he started flipping around and looking at it, I hadn't seen this episode before. So I began to look at it. What is Jesse looking at? I immediately said, what is he going to look for? And I noticed that it was a pancake body, just like on this Greco. So you see the two pieces, that's one piece and two pieces. They're joined together here in the center. And it's not really a pancake body, because a true pancake body would be maple, mahogany, and maple. But this is more like a laminate put together. And in that, what he thought was a 60 Black Beauty, you could see a split occurring there in the seams. Just like I said, I saw in that Les Paul Custom down there. I said Strat the other day. I meant to say Les Paul Custom. I saw that splitting in the seam from 1976 down the street here in Utrecht at the music shop. I think I have it here on YouTube somewhere. But I said to myself, wait a minute. They weren't doing pancake bodies like this guitar. This is a 74. They weren't doing pancake bodies until the 70s. And that set off a red alarm in my brain as Jesse was flipping it around. And then the next thing that I noticed was the volute on the back, which is incorrect as well. It was a 70s. It was a 70s. And the dude was just, he had bought that, somebody sold it to him and told him it was a 1960 Les Paul Black Beauty, and it ended up being like maybe a 72 or 73. And he was just heartbroken. Oh, I'm sorry, it was a 74. 74. Yeah, it's like this guitar. This is a 74. And he was just heartbroken. And he had gigged this thing for years, played on records. He was a professional guitar player. He played with, I think he said he played with Toto at one point. And he was just heartbroken. And that gets into, again, another point about doing your homework. That guy gigged that thing for years, and he was going around telling everybody it was a 1960, and he never once took a look at a 1960 or took it into a shop, or anybody else told him that, no, dude, this is a 74. I find that amazing. I myself personally have to know everything that I can know about my own guitars. This guitar, this Greco, it bothered me. It bewitched me. It bothered me to identify because these early Grecos don't have serial numbers and nothing on here other than the catalogs to really help you identify what they are. And one thing that really bothered me was this back neck stamp because it says made in Japan, but it doesn't say Matsumoku on the top. Now, and also, again, like I said, it had these star tuners. And that bothered the heck out of me. I said, I don't, most of the examples I see of the 500s or the 600s or the ones that I've had in said Matsumoku on the back. And these are, and by the way, it's original. It's not, it's an original. These are all original. Nothing is changed. It's all original parts on this. That bothered me. Come to find out, it's not a if it doesn't say Matsumoku stamped here, so it'll say made in Japan, and then above this it'll say Matsumoku. If it doesn't say Matsumoku, excuse me, it's getting late, tongue twister, here on the back, that means that it's a Fujigen made guitar. It's a Fujigen made guitar. The star tuners are also given only the made in Japan, no Matsumoku with the star tuners. That's a Fujigen made guitar. So this was not, so not all these Grecos. You'll see that in the end. And I'm going to do that this week. This week's regular content, I'm going to talk about identifying Greco because there's a lot of guys out there that are playing them on YouTube, but very few of them sit down and say, hey, this is this and this is this, and you need to look out for this and all this stuff. And this is a Fujigen made. This is not a Matsumoku made guitar. This is Fujigen, as you know, later on made the Fender, made in Japan series. So this is a precursor to that. It makes it even, a nicer guitar in my opinion. But it's a 550. And that's another thing I'm going to get into. I'm going to talk about it. I'm spoiling the lead here. I'm getting off course. But the point of all that is you can get really nice guitars like these for not a lot of money. You can get Tokai springy sounds. You can get the Greco spacey sounds. You can get early Japanese Squires. You can get their made in Japan reissues. Heck, you can get modern Harley Benton or Fujigen builds, okay, that are cheaper and in my opinion better than what you're getting. I would put any Harley Benton reasonably, they're still, under 500 years, I think they are, Strats, over that made in Indonesia and Fender any day of the week. That, and I mean that as well. I really do mean that. Let me catch up in the chat here. Pawn shops are horrible. Every time I see a guitar in a pawn shop, I feel sorry for it. Yeah, me too. I'm thinking about picking up a Tokai Strat for a much better price than a new Fender. I really think that that's a better way to go. There are great Tokais out there. I had that candy apple red one I had was a great Tokai, beautiful one. Right before, made by Fujigen, just like this guitar. Again, like I said, I did the necks on those were too thin, but still nice guitar. The guy was from the band Triumph. Yeah, so you saw that one. He was bummed when Jesse told him it was a 69 instead of a 6. Was it a 69? I thought he was indicating that it was a 74. Because Pancakes did start in 69, but I thought he says a little slightly later there, but still. But either way, he was bummed. I felt bad for him, but still, it drove me nuts because every example of these Grecos I saw mostly were Matsumoku made, but every now and then I would see one that had this configuration on it. By the way, that's the other thing too, is that, one guy listed his 550. So this is a 1974 550, SE 550. It only came out in the first 4 months of 1974. Does that make it rare? Not necessarily. I have seen a few of them, but some people say, "Oh, this is a super rare." And you gotta look out for that. Oh, it's a one piece neck. No, it's not because I've seen 550s like mine that are multi pieces. One guy who was selling his one piece neck, as he has two of them. He's got two SE 550s that he's selling. Matsumoku Rocks. You can check them out on YouTube. He's got two of them. One of them is they're both same year, same run, just like this one from early 1974. One has a one-piece neck, one has the same multi-piece neck as mine. So even within there's variation. It'll drive you nuts. I found out Santa Claus wasn't real because when I got a bicycle that had a sticker made in Japan, I thought everything was made in the North Pole. That's a good one. Anthony, how you doing? Cheers to you, sir. Wow, you have a doppelganger in the UK called Puddington. Puddington. Paddington? Is that what you're trying to spell? Paddington's good looking. I'll take that as a compliment. Um, so there's that. You know, why would I spend $8.99 on a made in Mexico Strat when I can have something that's better built, older, and holding its value? I bring that question to you. Then you can have something like this. This is my other. This is my number two guitar. So that was the Greco's now my number one for sure, and this is my number two guitar. You guys remember this? This is the guitar that I spent a long time, a year or so, meticulously putting together. And I think that putting together a parts caster now is actually more. Before people warn you and say, "Oh, it can get expensive." Oh, be careful about that. You can run up. Hell, at this point, you probably get off cheaper building a parts caster than buying some of these Fenders at this point. And so I bring this forward as as an alternative too. Build your own parts caster. Now, as pointing out, it's a modular design. This is a Squire body from 2002, brand new neck that I had to work on. The pickups are Q pickups out of Croatia, really nice Alnico 3 pickups, beautiful sounding 3-position switch, just like I don't like 5-position switch, but 3-position switch, just like the Greco over here. It's my number two guitar, which by the way, I was looking up Roy Gallagher because we were talking about him in the last live stream. And one interesting thing that he and I have in common that just happened as a circumstance that I would note is that his number two guitar, I believe they said from the mid 70s until the early 80s, was a super Strat, just like this one. He had two DiMarzios in his, as two cream DiMarzios in his, as opposed to I have these two cream Q pickups. But exactly like this. And his number one guitar, of course, is his 61 SSS Strat. So now my number one and number two are very similar to what Roy Gallagher played, which is, just out of and I'm happy with these. I'm really super duper happy that this is my number. I can go for the rest of my life with these two guitars, guys, and I'd be completely satisfied. I kid you not. Now I need a bass guitar, but these two do it. They cover all the bases. But I found that interesting, and I understand sonically too. That it's just that's just researching a guy that I casually know. I don't know a lot about him, but I do casually know some of the facts and figures. Certainly his 61, I think it sold for $2 million, which is why I know that one. But yeah, that was interesting. So sonically, I can kind of dig where he was going there. The greatest commandment is, and the second. Do you know the people with Airbnbs or triple plus houses completely empty the majority of the time, and vehicles and cars hiding in used sheds? Oh, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I know that. Patrick, Tokai Japan is great. They are also made in China. Those are about half the price of the made in Japan ones. That's correct, Patrick. You can get Tokai made in China that are great. You can get Tokais made in Japan still, and your sweet spot is the early '80s, and they're great. I've had a few on this channel. Go back and look at some of my unboxing videos. Had quite a few of them. Roy was a great player. He was as yeah. Thanks for the tip, as Anthony says, Patrick. I appreciate that. That's a good point. Yeah, I was listening to him, really listening to him, listening to the recordings I found on YouTube with his Super Strat, and you know, those kind of guitar players don't exist anymore. I just feel that. My friend actually brought back some nice guitars from Mexico, acoustic for cheap, and can't understand the names. Nothing I've heard. Yeah, yeah. If you find a good builder, my mandolin. Can I easily get to that? Yeah. So my mandolin that I've used on recordings, if you want to hear it, listen to the mandolin solo I did on my song. Oh gosh, what was my last album? I can't remember anyway. It's terrible. I can't remember the titles of my own songs. But yeah, that's why I fell for that guy about hearing his mandolin got stolen, because my mandolin I had this custom made in Vietnam. Whoop, don't want to bang it. Had it custom made in Vietnam. And this is just a fantastic recording mandolin. And I use it as a matter of fact, I'm considering using it for a song that I'm writing right now called There's Something That I Want to Tell You. I'm thinking about putting a mandolin solo on it and using this. And, this is a no-name guy in Vietnam, but he's a master builder. Its resale value probably means nothing. But to me, you're not going to get a mandolin this well built out of Fender or Gibson or anybody else that makes mandolins. Trust me. It's just a beauty. Fender or Gibson. Sorry, Michael Jackson. Didn't mean to pull your chat. I'm sure. Mike, who, in your opinion, is the most famous session player? Oh, Skunk Baxter. Skunk Baxter. I'd have to say Skunk Baxter's been on things that you'd be surprised. There's TV commercials he played on. And then Carol Kane after that. And then James Jamerson from Motown. Most of the Wrecking Crew. Shall I go on? Can you play could I play the mandolin a bit? No. It's too late at night. It's after midnight. It's getting towards midnight. No, it's a very shrill and loud instrument, and no. But it does. I'll strum it a bit. I can't do that. It's a beauty. I like it. Oh man, I am just abusing this thing tonight. Taking it out of its case. Little out of tune, guys. Maybe this is not the time to be tuning a mandolin. Tell you what, let's put that down. Leave it alone for now. But it's a beautiful sounding instrument. Take my word for it. Nice mando, great inlay work. Thank you, guys. What's the difference between a mandolin and guitar? A lot. Scale for one. Yeah, it's a beauty. It's out of tune. I'll tune it up and I'll play it for you guys. But I love this mandolin. I've had two in my life. The first one was relatively cheap, Japanese Yamaha, and then this one came along, and I let that one go and just kept this one because this is the one that sounds really nice on recordings. One's a little bit bigger than the other. So really, seriously, there are alternatives out there, guys. You don't have to suck it up and take this crap that Fender's putting out in this regard with these prices. Let the collectors chase custom shops. Be here to look for hidden gems. Again, getting back to my motto, I'm good. I'm content with smart gear, not chasing hype. Ooh, what a cool standard player series from Indonesia Fender you got there, said no one ever. And with this price increase, the chances of that actually happening has decreased. you know, uh, you know, I told that story about the guy with the Gibson. Basically, the gist of it is he didn't do his homework. And one of the things that about doing your homework is the results. It's a difference between walking in a pawn shop and thinking. First of all, Pawn Stars is set up so taking it into a pawn shop. I find the whole scenario questionable. However, however, because there was another scene where the guy brings in Hendrix white Strat from a white Strat, and how many white Strats did Hendrix have? It gets into a lot of questions. But in any case, it just brings up the point of doing your homework and being a smart buyer, having a strategy. Um, New gear rarely appreciates. Vintage gear either holds its own or slightly, or at least at the cost of inflation, appreciates. So that's a general rule of thumb. Doesn't always sit that way, but there are certain things that will hold their price, they'll hold their value. Now, also remember, it's got to be unique to you. Joe Bonamassa got on 2 or 3 days ago. Guitar Player's YouTube channel, and he said something that I've been saying for a long time, but of course, being a much more eloquent man than I am, he said it much more eloquently. The guitar has to speak to you. You know, it's a guitar that you pick up, and the neck feels good to you, and acoustically, it rings very nicely. Um, maybe it's got a story to it. Maybe somebody like this one loved it so much they played it to heck, refretted it, and now I've taken over and restored it, and I'm going to play the heck out of it too. But it's got a story, and it's also the one he said that you find yourself reaching over and picking up all the time. And that's one guitar because you only got two hands. You can only play one at a time, unless you got a double neck. And then you got at least another option there. But essentially, you only got two hands. So it's got to be so you really and their tools as well. From my standpoint, from recording wise, I've got two tools because sonically, this guitar is going to sound different than the Greco. And in a recording situation, like I've always said, I always like to have two different guitars when I'm recording tracks in order to differentiate the different parts to make them sound a little bit different. So sonically, studio-wise, this covers all my bases, and I don't need anything more than this. So I'm good. One I made myself from bits and pieces over time, took me time. I made for myself under $400. The other one I got, I got second at a secondhand shop in Japan, also for less than I made in Mexico Fender. So there's alternatives, and it's a vintage guitar. It's got a maple cap on it. They don't make Fender doesn't make, only custom shops and only certain custom shop models have a maple cap on them. These Grecos from the early 70s have a maple cap. That's considered to be a premium these days that you just can't find. So, it's got to be unique to you. I'm not angry at Fender. I've said that. This was not me, I'm betrayed, I'm outraged, it pisses me off. None of that. No, 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 no. Because I understand what they're doing. They're trying to move themselves into the category of being a lifestyle brand. And that means that it's not really for you or I anymore. It's a whole different segment of society. And I'm just done playing their game. And I'm inviting you guys to do the same. And I'm giving you reasons to, but I am giving you alternatives to think about instead of, if you got to have a Strat, there's a lot of different Strats out there you can have, and you don't even have to play the Fender game. Scott, we are going to check everybody. I want you to go over right now. I'm going to click on that right now. We're going to go to Scott. Yeah, there we go. There's Mr. Bogfoot. We are going to give him a thumbs up. Everybody go over to Scott's video. Give him a thumbs up, please. Please, please, please. And if you haven't subscribed to his channel, you hit subscribe and do that for him. Let's do that for Scott. And Scott, I will take a look at that video after we're done with this live stream. Thank you for putting that up, man. Awesome. That Eastman LP Jr. I got recently is definitely doing that for me. Yeah. And you're saying I'm good. And it's that guitar that you just keep reaching for. These two guitars I have here are parked next to each other in my living room. And I will pick up and I will grab my parts caster and I will strum it and I will play it. I do notice the neck on it because the fretwork on these are jumbo frets on here. I did the fretwork myself. It's smooth, but it's not like that worn 70s small, Japanese frets that, you have on this 74 550. This is just a smooth ride. It's a much, and so that in itself attracts me to it, and I've got the action, at a reasonable place on it as well, that I like, So, it's got to speak to you. It's got to speak to you, It's got, and that's the one you reach for, and that's what Bonamassa was talking about, and I agree with him completely. It's very rarely that I got no problems with Joe Bonamassa. I don't understand anybody who does. Actually, to be honest with you, as far as, I'm sure, he may beat his cat privately, but I don't know. But just generally a decent musician, because a lot of those guys are prima donnas and assholes, and they won't even share information with you. And he gave you some really good advice. That one that you keep reaching for, that's your guitar. Everything else is eye candy, I guess. Best guitar pawn shop, Mary Ford's SG Custom. Yeah, I saw that. Mary Ford's, I saw that episode. They had that. It was a block. It was best pawn shop guitar deals, and that was in part 1, and in part 2 was the Black Beauty Custom. Scott's got the same grudge, Jim, Danny, that I got a great time. But about your custom, damn. I'm going to check that out, guys. And I want you to do is, I'm talking to everybody. Everybody who's watching this live stream tonight, you want to do me a favor, go over to Scott's link here in the chat, hit his video, give him a like, and if you haven't subscribed with him, subscribe with his channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let's move on. So where am I at? Fender would keep doing this if people keep buying at the end of the day. But there are so many amazing guitars out there for way less if you know where to look. So, or like I said, it's getting ridiculous. It really is getting to the point where building a parts caster may be a better option than buying, because at least you can do a custom the way you like it. And you may get off with it, a little bit easier than you would buying some of these Fenders. Especially, I know for the 899, like I did this for 400. Okay, so all of the if I look at the price of the pickups, price of the body, price of the neck, hardware, and all that. I did this for just under $400 US. You give me $899. Imagine what I could do for $899. you know, you know what I'm saying? That would be a luxurious budget for me. To be honest. So, something to think about, guys. Something to chew on. It's just ridiculous to me, and I think that it's a game that I highly recommend that you stop playing. I have no interest. I'm out. I'm out. Let me see. I'm missing something here. You guys will excuse me while I find it. Yeah, oh, here it is. All right. So, and the detective work that I had to do to find out this 74, because like I said, I'm excited by the fact, you don't what you don't see is a lot of these Fujigen made Grecos. That's what you don't see. You see, like I said, check it out. Go on to Google or Reverb, type in 1974 Greco SE, and look at the back plate on most of those. I would say that 90% of them say Matsumoku on them. And very few of them, but there are a few of them, only say made in Japan, like the Fujigen made ones. And so, that's but only through just looking at this site and really looking at the minutia. How is this made? How many pieces is that neck? Well, why is this? And orientation and what common. And I'm doing that kind of homework, and I suppose that is not something that every musician would want to do. But because I like this guitar so much, somebody's going to ask me about it, and I want to know everything about it. Just like I know everything about this mandolin, just like I know everything about this parts caster, just like I know everything about this screen actually behind me. Well, not everything, but you know what I mean. I did my homework even when I bought this screen, and I'm good with this now because I made a smart purchase. I'm happy with it. Even things like that, this light, the lights that I use, the camera, the microphones, all that stuff. Well, the mics are a little iffy, but I'm seriously working on that, but I will get my sound a little bit better. But you guys understand what I'm saying. It really comes down to, surprise, surprise, he's led it right back to doing your homework again and making smart choices. If we don't support Fender and don't buy this crap, then guess what? Well, they're looking for other people to buy, but I think they're going to be sadly disappointed. I think they're going to be sadly disappointed. I really, truly do think that they're just not going to be happy. Can I do this? Is that possible? I'll move this over here and blow this up. And can I blow that up? Can I increase the size of that? Can I shift this over? Can you guys see that photo there behind me? Okay, so I want you to see this because this is the photo that I've been talking about. We've been going through the Laurel Canyon, wrapping up these live streams. Through the course of this summer, at the end of all of these live streams, I will be talking about the music scene up in Laurel Canyon, California, just in Los Angeles, and just how there are sinister forces that sprang out of that scene and some things that just don't add up. And one of the things that I talked about was Jim Morrison from The Doors. And I told you that there was a picture of him. So this is Jim Morrison. That's his dad. So that is Admiral Morrison on the ship of the USS Liberty. And that is his son, Jim Morrison, 1 year later to show up on the Laurel. So this is 1965. 1 year later, he shows up in Laurel Canyon, and his hair is a whole lot. Remember the Wally Beaver clothes, really short haircut, looking out from the deck of this U.S. destroyer. And 1 year later, he shows up in Laurel Canyon with a completely different hairstyle, getting his hair styled by a guy named Jay Sebring, who just happened to be murdered by the Manson clan. Now, if this picture doesn't, give you pause and doesn't make you say to yourself, well, wait a minute. I thought he was the Lizard King. I thought he was, the icon of the anti-war movement, rock and roll rebellion, take my, wiener out in the middle of a show kind of guy. Right? But this is what I submit to you is this is the real Jim Morrison. That guy that you see singing "Come On Baby Light My Fire," that's an actor. That's an act. That's an act. They talk about this picture can also be found on his father's Wikipedia page, George Stephen Morrison, for anyone having trouble seeing it. Thank you, Ron Wright. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's his body. I can't get it. Wait a minute. Maybe I can. Hold on. That doesn't. Here we go. 400. There we go. That's better. All right. So now we can see it. So here we have Jim Morrison, and here we have his father, Admiral George Morrison. Okay? 1 year later, from when this picture was taken, this Jim Morrison with the short haircut ended up in Laurel Canyon forming a group. He was at UCLA as well. So I'm not going to say that he was in one part of the world and he appeared that he was attending UCLA. Let's not get that twisted. But this is the UCLA student. This was the guy that I believe is the real Jim Morrison, quote unquote. The guy on stage was a persona that he put forward, and we'll see the reasons why that is going forward here. But I just want to bring that out. Benny, how you doing, sir? Welcome to the chat. Good to have you here. So, and like I said, his hairstylist, the guy who's famous for that shot of that very early shot, and his hair is about to here, but he's got the open shirt and he's standing there. Everybody knows that picture. It's a very famous one. It's one they use a lot. That hairstyle was done by Jay Sebring, again, like I said, a guy who was one of the victims of the Manson murders. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. A lot of stuff going on here. And I'm not going to read from the book tonight other than show this picture, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I think going forward, we'll read some chapters going forward here coming up. But I think just to set the tone for those of you who have been following along with this series, this picture lets you know that not everybody was as they said they were. Not everybody was as some. I would say that some people started acting a part and they got lost in the part. I would say some were clearly very knowledgeable of the role that they were playing, and as soon as they were done with that, they made a quiet exit. And there are some, I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. The Monkees were actors playing musicians that were kind of a campy version of the Beatles. And yet some of these guys in the Monkees were actually real musicians, and or they were actors who became musicians. In other words, there were a lot of people, a lot of actors playing roles there, and there were a lot of musicians playing roles there. Just because, in other words, that kind of talent is what I'm saying. Don't find it far fetched that you could have somebody like a Morrison, who's this guy, ending up being a rock star, because he's got a great voice, but he's no friggin' Frank Sinatra. But he was able to have the pull behind him. First, importantly of all, the production behind him, and second of all, he had enough of persona to be able to play that part. And when that was done, so was he. So there's that. This pick was in the book "Nobody Gets Out There Alive" by Danny Sugarman. Yeah, yeah. Another book talking about the music industry and how, as the title says, you know. So a picture's worth 1,000 words. I just so I want you to set in your mind that there were a lot of folks up there in Laurel Canyon showing up. Now there were actually some real musicians up there. I've said this before. I'll say it 1,000 times. I genuinely believe that Joni Mitchell was one of the purest, God honest, real talents and actual real musicians that was in the Laurel Canyon scene. I think some of the best music that she wrote was while she was up there in the Laurel Canyon scene, to be honest with you. So there is that. However, there were a lot of people also who were playing the role. So with that in mind, I just want to kind of set the stage, at least take a step back. We've gone through all these different characters, the Mamas and the Papas, the Birds. We talked about the Monkees. We've talked about, of course, Morrison here. We've talked about a lot of folks and their backgrounds. Frank Zappa, his wife Gail. Gail Zappa went to kindergarten with Jim Morrison here. They went to kindergarten. Frank Zappa's wife went to kindergarten with Jim Morrison at a military, kindergarten. Too many coincidences there. So there's that. And I met Admiral Morrison in 1989. I saw him at big screen TV. Wow, really? Wow, that's a story. Yeah. So, a lot of weird stuff there, guys. So I just want to throw this out there tonight. I wanted to share this just to take a step back. And what are we really saying here? What we're really saying here is this whole thing was a psyop full of real musicians and people who were playing real musicians. And I think there were more people playing musicians than there were actually real musicians. But I think some of those people playing musicians were actually pretty decent, turned out to be pretty decent musicians. Now, I know that sounds strange, but that's just the way it worked out. And I don't think even that was by coincidence. I think, anyway, we'll get into that more. But it's just something to think about, guys. Something to throw out there tonight in order to, again, like I said, get us, kind of framing where we're going. I bet there's some great Leslie West stories to be told. Yeah. Mike, in the state of Florida? I see. You're asking Mike, did he meet him in Florida? Gotcha. Well, I think that I've banged my mandolin here enough. Actually, it's pretty tough. What it really needs is a new set of strings. And I bought a set of strings for it, but I just haven't done it yet. And in case any of you guys are curious, what picks do I use? These are the picks that I use for mandolin. I've been using this for years, if that counts for anything. Yeah, I'll get to that. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow since it's a holiday here tomorrow. Yay! Today's a holiday here, so I can take it easy. Um, Maybe I'll restring my mandolin tomorrow. That's one thing I can do. But let me see. Potato heads. RUC Mike Rack. I don't even know what that means. I'm gonna leave on that note because that don't sound good. That sounds really sus. There's a sus question there. Thanks, guys. I want to thank you so much for tuning into this live stream, listening to my rambling on my birthday live stream, saying happy birthday to me. I do appreciate it. Appreciate it. It is so great to have such friends, to have such a great community here, guys. I want to thank you so much for showing up. Uh, God bless each and every one of you. Enjoy your week. Be safe. I will see you, God willing, again this Wednesday night. Some regular content coming up. I want to talk about how to identify a Greco Strat. Like I said, everybody's playing them. Oh, look at this, sounds great, but nobody takes the time to say, "Hey, look for this, look for that." So I'm gonna break that down. That's coming up here. Probably film that tomorrow. Yet another thing I can do. See, it's always guitar stuff. I hope you guys take care of yourselves and enjoy the rest of your weekend if you have any hours left in it. And I will talk to you soon. Bye bye, everybody.